Nazis started off with shooting squads, but that became too gruesome for the soldiers to continue doing. So then they switched to gas vans. This proved to be a clean way of exterminating Jews, but it wasn't efficient. Following the Wannsee Conference, 3 more death camps were built to help with the final solution to the Jewish problem: Belzec, Sobibor, and Treblinka. At these camps, people would not be selected to work or die, they would just be sent straight to the gas chambers. But Auschwitz worked as a concentration camp and death camp. When I think about Auschwitz, I will always remember the horrific sights that most of us saw and learned about on our Poland trip. I will always remember the disgusting barracks that Jews were forced to stay in, the thousands of shoes that were ripped away, the massive gas chambers, the horrific stories, and just the sight of the camp itself. But there are a few specific memories that just feel different every time I think about this site. Throughout the trip, I was very confused on how to feel. There were people around me who were crying, and people around me who were just in complete shock of what they were seeing. But for me, I was kind of stuck in the middle. I wanted to have been able to cry, but for some reason I couldn't. I really didn't know how to describe how I felt until this one moment in Auschwitz. All of us who were on the trip learned a daf of Gemara that when we would be in Auschwitz, we'd make a Siyman Bracha. When I heard about this before the trip, I thought this was a great idea, but I didn't realize how much this would actually impact me. As I mentioned before, I didn't really know how to feel, and I was hoping that going to Auschwitz would spark some sort of feeling within me. We started off the day in Auschwitz I. Auschwitz was initially a detention center for political prisoners, but as the war progressed, the Nazis needed more room for Jews and turned it into a network of camps where Jewish people were exterminated. When we got to the first part, I knew that there was something different about this place, and I had this eerie feeling. But when we got to Auschwitz II, Auschwitz-Birkenau, I was overcome with different emotions and feelings. I was thinking to myself that right now we were walking up the train tracks that was the last spot that millions of innocent souls ever saw. I was standing in a place where 1.1 million Jews were exterminated, people were exterminated. And as we were walking, I saw 2 kids in our group wearing the Israeli flag, and I finally understood what I was feeling. I had this huge feeling of pride. Here I am in a place that its sole purpose was to exterminate Jews, and I'm standing on that exact place years later, and all I could think was, you lost and I won. As we continued down the tracks, we stopped at the gas chambers. We were told a story about how the Jews were waiting in line to be put to death, and someone mentioned that it was time for mincha. So everyone, knowing what was about to happen, stopped and davened to Hashem. Then the experience that really put everything home was when we made the Siyum. As I mentioned earlier, we were standing in a place where the only purpose it served was to kill Jews, and now, how ironic that me, a Jew, is about to finish a Masechta in that exact same spot where the Nazis really thought they were going to succeed. This gave me the strongest sense of pride that I've ever felt, that I'm a part of this everlasting people that no matter what happens, we thrive. After this simple task of me learning just one daf of Gemara at my makom in the base medrash with my comfortable bed right up the steps, how can these people have been exterminated for just being Jewish? And I let this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity of a year of learning and immersion in Judaism slip by. On our walk out of Auschwitz, we were told a story about how a lady named Esti Magid was pregnant in Auschwitz. But in Auschwitz, no one was allowed to have children. There was a doctor named Dr. Gisela Pearl, who was one of the best doctors in Hungary. And when she was shipped to Auschwitz, Mengele chose her to be the person in charge of the abortions. So when Esti found out she was pregnant, she went to Dr. Pearl and told her that she wanted to keep the baby, and Dr. Pearl agreed. It came time for her to deliver the baby, and when the baby boy was delivered, Dr. Pearl took the baby and drowned him in the bathroom and screamed, "A life for a life." Years later, they both survived the war, and Esti was pregnant again, and saw that Dr. Pearl had a practice in the city, and she wanted to cause a scene at her practice for what she had done years before. But when they both saw each other, all they can do was embrace. And Esti even let Dr. Pearl deliver the baby. And when she delivered the baby, she screamed, "A life for a life." After hearing this story, I thought that how lucky am I to be a Jew who was able to walk out of here alive, and how Baruch Hashem I'm able to sit in a base medrash in a country where we have people to protect us, and where Jewish blood is not cheap, and how blessed we are to be able to complete the learning of our ancestors that was cut too short. May the memory be a blessing.